of Lamarque's Mayor, Mayor Keith Bell. I'm going to put this on the FM, and we're going to have some informative information here today. Here we go. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. My name is Gardy. Right now it's 3:07 on a Thursday, and I have the honor of speaking to Mayor Keith Bell of the city of Lamarque. Mayor, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Gardy. It's good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. I saw you yesterday at an event that took place at the Doyle Center, where one of our employees here at the city of Lamarque, Colleen Martin, was honored as one of the women in leadership. How cool was that?
That was amazing. Colleen Martin, our public relations specialist, won the award for Young Professional at the first annual Texas City Lamarque Chamber of Commerce Women in Leadership event. Amazing, amazing feat. As I said before, Colleen Martin is a force for Lamarque, and she continues to do great things, and we continue to see the results every day.
Yes. So I had a great time. I thought that event was very well done. Thank you to the Chamber for putting that on. And I'm excited to see it continue on as they honor there's some really hardworking ladies and women in our area.
And we need to acknowledge that many times women are even more effective than men in leadership. And so kudos to all of those nominees and all of the winners from yesterday. I'm excited about what the Chamber has in store for us, and I'm even more excited about what the women of this county and the leadership that they provide can do for our county in the future.
Yes, sir. So I ran into you at that event, and I always tell you, hey, you got an open door policy here. Let's make it happen. So there's a lot of information that I see, and y'all give a lot of avenues. So people can watch the council meetings in person.
Yes.
They can also attend online.
Yes.
Via YouTube as well. Or I know you had an open door like, hey, give me a call whenever it is.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of questions, and people are wondering about taxes. And so you wanted to get out some information. What do we have going on with our taxes right now?
Well, we are in tax season, and the council has been hard at work working on a budget. Our budget this year for fiscal year 21 and 22 has come in right at about $13.4 million. Some wonderful things we've been able to do in this budget. We have been able to bolster our police force. We're adding police positions. We're adding a deputy chief position. We're adding an ID officer, and an ID officer is one of those persons that investigates the scenes and collects evidence when crimes are committed. We're adding street crimes personnel. We're adding more to our narcotics division. We're adding more to our fire department as it relates to training and some more responsibility. We're promoting captains and all sorts of other things. And one of the more important things as well is we are adding, and this is one of the things that I learned in my listening tour, we're adding 4 personnel to our public works department that will be assigned to cleaning our ditches, mowing our ditches, cleaning and clearing our easements, and cleaning and clearing our right-of-ways, because that was one of the biggest concerns that we found in the community. People want their ditches cleaned, people want their easements cleared, and people want the right-of-ways. When you enter and exit our city, people want those things to look nice. You have a city that looks nice. You can take pride in that city. You take pride in that city, you'll start taking pride in your neighborhood, and we can move forward in Lamarque in an even greater fashion.
And also with the storm and rain events that we have, if those ditches are clean and better prepared, then it allows the water to flow a bit better.
Absolutely. One of the things we learned, kudos to Interim City Manager Chase Carey and our Public Works Department. Mm-hmm. This Saturday and Sunday before the storm, they were out cleaning and clearing ditches, drainage ditches, and it made a tremendous impact because although we didn't see a lot of rain with Nicholas was more of a wind event. The rain that we did see, for the most part, there's still parts that suffer, that have suffered, but for the most part, the rain water drained in a way that didn't cause any of our homes to be flooded. So we're thankful for that.
Okay, so there's some stuff with the taxes that I don't fully understand, so I'm going to be asking some questions that are sincere. So what's up with the tax rates? I see that that we have a tax rate, and it may be, there's a petition where you can roll it back. What's going on with all of that?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me say this. Let's lay a foundation where we can discuss this from an intelligent perspective.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, let me say this very clearly to our citizens: the city of Lamarck, your city council, has in the last 15 to 17 years has only raised taxes one time, Gardy. I'll say that again for us so that we can be clear. The last 15 to 17 years, the city of Lamarck has only raised taxes one time. So we are a fiscally conservative council, and we have been spanning 2 decades. We don't raise taxes in the city of Lamarck. Now, second point, the tax rate that we're at now, 55 cents, that has been the tax rate for the last 3 years, Gardy. The last 3 years, we've had the same tax rate, 55 cents. Let me back up a little bit and let me say, even in, I believe it was 2009 or 2010, when the council was faced with an $800,000+ deficit. Now, you're talking about a $10 million budget. So when we were faced with an $800,000+ budget, when we, in our budget workshop, worked until 3 a.m. To resolve these issues, we still didn't raise taxes. And so you're talking about a council, and many councils, not only this one, but the ones before this one that I was a part of, raising taxes was a bad word. And so we have not raised taxes, and even in this current budget process, we haven't raised taxes. The tax rate has been 55 cents for 3 years. Now, here's the thing. In 2019, the Texas legislature passed Senate Bill 2. And what Senate Bill 2 does, without getting too deep into the weeds, it is designed to protect the citizens against tax increases and revenue increases over and above 3.5%, right? It's designed to be a friend of the taxpayer. It's designed for the taxpayer to have the ability to understand and know what's happening with their government, and it's a good bill. One of the things that's playing a factor in Senate Bill 2 is the fact that the Central Appraisal District, the Galveston County Central Appraisal District, has for the last 2 years raised the valuations of property. And so many of us have received 20 and 30% increases in the value of our property, which has caused more tax revenue. Let's be clear. It is not because the city of Lamarck or the city of Lamarck City Council raised tax rates. It's because the Central Appraisal District raised the valuation of properties, thereby generating more tax revenue. So that's the issue that's at play. Now, Senate Bill 2 says, whatever the case, if you are exceeding as a city, if you are exceeding 3.5% growth, whether it be through the raising of taxes, which we know we did not, or even through the raising of valuation, what that does is that triggers them through Senate Bill 2 to give you a rate. They suggest to you a rate that you can pass that will allow you to generate the same amount of revenue that you generated the previous year. And so I hope that I'm making sense. And so what happened to this council, and what is happening all across our county, I need to say that to you, but what has happened to this council is that at the beginning of our budget cycle, at the beginning of our budget workshops, we begin work on our budget at a 55-cent tax rate.
That's what it is, you said, for the past 3 years.
3 years.
Okay.
So when we begin work, Gardy, this year, we did not raise taxes, right? So after we visited with the police department and we looked at their needs, and the fire department and the public works department, after I did a listening tour to see the needs of the community, after all of those things happened, the Senate Bill 2 preferred rate of 47 cents was communicated to us by our tax assessor, collector Cheryl Johnson. Now, this is after all of the work had been done.
Mhm.
Now, all that says is this. Because we exceeded 3.5% growth, right? They have to give us a preferred rate. We don't have to accept that rate, but they have to give us a preferred rate. Now, if we go above that preferred rate, what that can do is that can potentially trigger a petition, right? The community can petition and they can say we want to have a vote, a citywide vote, right? And so let's clear that up. That petition, if there was a petition, I'm not saying that there is. If there was a petition, that petition would only cause and call for a vote. And so the city of Lamarck would have to finance an election, right? And then we would have to decide whether or not we want to stay at the 55 cent or we want to go to the 47 cent. And so that's where we are in the weeds of all of this. And mind you, the council had already done the majority of its work, 95% of its work, before this rate was suggested to us. Now, let me say this. Every member of our council has said that we would do whatever the community wants us to do. So this is not us pushing through a tax rate that we've had for the last 3 years. This is us working on a budget according to a tax rate we've had the last 3 years. And we're also saying, but if you want us to put it at a different rate, then we're fine with that. We have no problem with that at all. But what will happen then is all of these new things that we say that we need, right? Mm-hmm. Because this 55 cent rate, again, allows us to have a deputy chief. It allows us to have 2 street crimes officers. It allows us to have criminal investigation division officer, an ID officer. It allows us to have mental health for our police officers, right? It allows us to bolster the training, vital training for our fire department. It allows us to promote captains in our fire department so that we can have greater leadership. We have 2 stations now. And so we need leadership. We need people that we can hold accountable for the actions and activities of our fire department. And so the majority of this work is centered around public safety at a time, Gardy, that we are having a humongous challenge with crime, right? And so many of our community members are saying we want to be tough on crime. We want to stop the things that are happening within our borders. We want to prosecute. We want to arrest, capture, and put criminals in a position where they can be prosecuted, right? We're saying that we want to stop shootings. We're saying that we want to stop car break-ins and all of the other things that we're saying. And so this suggested rate, if we were to go with that, that would cause us to eliminate the new positions. And let me be clear on that, right? Nobody is defunding the police. That is not a true statement. The police, as they are right now, will continue to exist. So let's be clear. But what we're saying is all of these new proposals that we have that are targeted toward making an even greater impact on crime in our community, those go away. And not only that, but the 4 positions that we had in public works that we've planned for. You know, those ditches that we want to have mowed, those easements that we want to have cleared, those right-of-ways that we want to have mowed and we want to have our city looking nice. All of those things start to be put into jeopardy, not existing services, but new services. And so that's where the nuance is in what we're talking about.
Okay, so a couple things, and these are based off some questions that are coming in now. So are there other ways that can cut back other than first responders? Like, so other ways that it can be cut and keep in those additional things that y'all did with the budget. Is that possible?
So here it is. I believe our public works department has about 34, 35 employees, right? I believe when I started as a council member in our city, we had over 70 public works employees, Gardy, and we've cut our public works division by 50% in the time that I've been there. Why? Because our council is so fiscally conservative, and councils before this council are so fiscally conservative that we cut areas of city services to the point that now our citizens are very, very concerned about the level of city services that can be provided. That is a major department in our city, right? And so we can't cut from our public works division. The other departments, finance and the library and utility billing, these are small departments. They have 3-4 employees to them. So there's nowhere else for us to recoup the monies, other than police, fire, and the new and again, let's say this again to be clear. Nobody who's working now will lose their job. Nobody's defunding the police. Nobody's defunding the fire department, and nobody's defunding the public works department. This is all about new growth as the city moves forward. As we begin to be the city that we know we can be, these are the things that are at stake. So the answer to that is there's nowhere else to cut. Again, we have a $13 million budget, $13.4 million budget, Gardy. And so these cuts will end up costing us $900,000. And that's almost close to 10% of our budget, right? And so I've looked at a couple of cities around us, and one of the cities around us, League City, cut taxes. And that was an awesome thing for them to do, Gardy. But let's look deeper into what happened. They cut taxes, Gardy, by $9 million. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's almost a whole budget.
That's
like you said.
$9 million. But,
yeah.
And that looks great, Gardy, until you begin to understand that League City has a $250 million budget. So it comes out to be about 4% of their budget. None of their city services will be affected by their cuts. Kudos to Pat Hallisey and the League City Council for cutting their tax rate, but it did not affect their vital city services. Galveston just had a debate and a discussion among their council members because they were trying to cut their tax rate. And in that article, I read the article, they were talking, Gardy, about cutting the amount of times that fire trucks go back and forth to emergency calls and cutting the amount of fire personnel that respond to calls. And so if Galveston, and I got word that they approved the tax rate as is, so they didn't cut taxes. But if they were to do that, they would have cut vital city services. Now, what happens if it's your mother having a heart attack? If it was my mother having a heart attack, I would want 50 firefighters there, right?
Right.
And so we're talking about cutting vital city services. Lamarck hasn't raised taxes, and so there's nothing to cut. There's nowhere else for us to go. One other thing that I heard in the community is, well, we have these events and these specials. We have Bayou Fest and things of that nature. We can cut and use the money from there. Well, Bayou Fest does not come out of the maintenance and operations part of our budget. Bayou Fest comes out of the hotel-motel tax. And with your hotel-motel tax, the only thing you can do is put on events for your city. And so even if we were to eliminate Bayou Fest, we still can't use that money to resolve some of the issues that we're having with our budget. And so we just need to get the information out to the community so that they can understand exactly what's at stake.
Okay, so earlier you said whatever the people in the community, whatever Lamarck decides, y'all will, allow to happen.
Absolutely.
And you said it's their right to petition
Absolutely.
and go from there. So will there be any backlash if there is a people or a person who is leading a petition or anything like that?
Backlash from
like as far as like a legal standpoint?
No, from the council.
Yeah, from council or anything like that.
I don't see any legal backlash. What would happen is, again, we have to be very clear because we want to make sure that the people understand. Even if someone were to start a petition, what would happen is, and even if they were successful, all that would do would trigger an election. It is not an automatic. I want the citizens to be clear about this. Just because somebody signed a petition and they turned it in and all of the signatures are verified and all of those things happen, It doesn't mean that your tax rate goes to 47. Then what happens is it triggers an election, Gardy.
Okay.
It triggers an election. And in that election, those things that are at stake will come out. And so it will be those things that we as a council propose, the bolstering of our public safety, right? The bolstering of our public works, right? At the same tax rate that we've always had, right? No, there's not an increase in taxes. The bolstering of those areas of our city, the things that the community has been clamoring for all of this year and a few years prior, these things will be at stake. And so what you have now is you would have a community that has been asking for greater police presence and protection, a community that has been asking for greater emergency medical and fire services, a community that has been asking for greater response in cleaning ditches and cleaning easements and public works doing more for our community. Those things will be on the ballot. And the community has asked for those things. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the issue as far as this council goes. We would do whatever. We'll do whatever the citizens ask us to do. But we're saying that if you're asking us to do these things, we want you to know everything that there is to know about what's at stake. You see, a lot of folks, want to lower taxes at all costs. And I get it. Again, I served on a council. I've been serving on a council for 17 years. And I just said to you, we've raised taxes one time, Gardy, one time in those years. And so I get it. I'm a fiscally conservative person as well. But there are times when the city services need to be bolstered and improved. If we go to 47 cents, then perhaps there will continue to be the problems that we have, whether it be crime or whether it be problems with our easements and our drainage and so on and so forth, then those problems will persist. But if we want to move forward, if we want to have nice things, if we want to have our community to be better, if we want the quality of our life to be better, then we perhaps might consider remaining at 55 cents. Let me say this to you also, Gordy. Let me say this to you also. Mm-hmm. Now, in our charter, the city of Lamarck requires that we have 3 public hearings on our tax rate. 3, Gardy, 3. And so I believe, if my memory serves me right, we've already had 2 public hearings on our tax rate. That means that anybody can come, Gardy, and they can make them, whether it be via Zoom or whether it be via in person or however they would like to communicate with council in a public meeting. They could come. They've had the opportunity to come and visit with council and make their feelings known about their tax rate. We haven't had anybody come to the 2 public hearings. We haven't had any comments in those 2 public hearings, right? And so this is a new phenomenon. I don't know where it's coming from, but we are prepared because we serve at the pleasure of the people, right? And this is why I am making sure that we are being fully transparent in this process, right? I didn't hide this from anybody. I was the one, as your mayor, I was the one in an open council meeting that said these things to our community. This is what's happening. These are our options, and the council will do whatever you're asking us to do, and I'll continue to do that.
Mayor, in the proposed budget as it is, what are you in the council most excited for and think will make some of the biggest impacts for the city?
I think 2 things. I think there again, let me drill down on the idea that 2 of the biggest issues that I hear in our community are people wanting to feel safe, and that's what I ran on, a safe city. I believe that we can be the safest city in Texas. I still believe that. And this is a reflection. This budget is a reflection of that, right? We don't have a lot of money, but the money that we do have, we have put our money where our mouth is. We want to be a safe city, and so these new positions and these new roles that we'll have coming aboard with our police department, I believe that's going to make a huge impact in our community. And secondly, the very next thing that I've heard people say is they want their ditches cleared and cleaned and mowed. They want their easements to be cleared, and they want their right-of-ways to be cleared. And so these are the two things I think that will give our citizens more of a bang for their buck. And so those are the things that I think that will have the greatest impact.
Mayor, is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
No, Gard. I think that we've shared as much as we can on the tax rate. Again, let me say this. Let's back up and let's say this again. In the last 15 to 17 years, and my memory is I don't want to say anything incorrect. We've raised taxes, Gardy, one time. Let me also say we have had the same tax rate for 3 years, Gardy. Same rate, 3 years. We have also, Gardy, had 2 out of our 3 public hearings. That means that Gardy's mom, hey mom, Gardy's dad.
They live right down the street. Yeah.
Right. Lamarck residents.
Yes.
That they can come and they could have had their voices heard as it relates to the tax rate, but we haven't had anybody, right? And 4, this is not in any way, Gardy, let's say this to the people very clearly. This is not in any way a defunding of the police. That is that is an inaccurate statement, perhaps by folks that may be misinformed, and there's no harm in that. I'm not trying to blame people. I'm just saying the reason I'm here is so that we can get it cleared up and we can get it straight. So the police is not being defunded. If we go back to 47 cents, what you have now in your police department, you will still have. If we go back to 47 cents, what you have now in your fire department, we'll still have. If you go back to 47 cents, the 30-some-odd workers that you have in public works that are trying to do the job of 70-plus folks. Because here's the thing, Gardy. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we had 70, right? When we had 70 public works employees, we didn't have Delaney Cove built out, right?
Right.
We didn't have Saltgrass built out. We didn't have Barondo Pines built out. Last year alone, Gardy, we had over 215 permits for new houses, not on the west side of town, Gardy, but on the east side of town, in what some would call Old Lamarck, and those of us that are a little more politically savvy, we call traditional Lamarck. So in District A and District C and District D, in those parts of town, we had 215 new home permits. And so our city is busting at the seams, second fastest growing city in our county, 18,000 plus residents, probably 20,000 here if we were to look in a year. And our public works department has been diminished to 35 because we've always had a council that has been so fiscally conservative that we would rather cut than we would raise taxes. And so I want the people to know that as we consider, we can leave this rate as it is, and we can provide new services that we can be excited about, or we can move our rate back to something less than what it is, and we can maintain the status quo. Now, if you're happy maintaining the status quo, if you're happy maintaining the issues that we have with our police just not having enough resources to combat crime, if you're happy with our public works division maintaining itself the way it is, and if you're happy with our fire department not receiving the training they need and giving responsibility to members of our fire department so that they can do greater works within our community, it's your choice.
Thank you for making some time today. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Gardy.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.